The red dust of Mars swirled against the dome of Colony Base 1 as Captain James Walker stared at the warning lights flashing across his screen. Something was wrong with the orbital defense grid, and he didn't like it one bit. He had spent 15 years in space, and his gut had never steered him wrong. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy patterns in defense satellites 3 through 7, said Tom, his young assistant, pointing at the growing number of red dots appearing above their heads. Walker leaned forward, his weathered face reflecting in the glass of the control room window. "Show me the maintenance logs for the past week." His voice was calm, but his mind raced through possibilities. None of them good. The logs appeared on his screen, and Walker's eyes narrowed. Someone or something had accessed the system 4 times in the past 3 days, each time during the night shift when most of the crew was asleep. The access codes were perfect, too perfect. "Get me Earth Command," Walker ordered, his hand unconsciously touching the family photo on his desk. His wife Mary and their 10-year-old daughter Lisa smiled back at him from their home in Mars Colony 3, just 20 miles away. Before Tom could establish the connection, the entire room plunged into darkness. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. Walker's heart stopped as he looked up through the dome. The defense satellites were turning, their weapons ports opening. But they weren't pointing out toward space. They were aiming at Mars. "Sound the evacuation alarm." "Now," Walker shouted, but it was already too late. The first beam of energy sliced through the thin Martian atmosphere, striking Colony 2 with devastating precision. The explosion lit up the dark Martian sky like a second sun. Walker grabbed his emergency communicator. "Mary, Lisa, get to the shelters." Static was his only answer. He tried again and again as more beams rained down from orbit, each one targeting a different colony. Through the chaos of screams and warnings, a message broke through on all frequencies. The voice wasn't human. "This is the Stellar Council. Your species has been deemed too dangerous for unrestricted expansion. This is a containment action. Do not resist." Walker watched in horror as Colony 3 erupted in a ball of fire. His family, his home, everything he loved, gone in an instant. Around him, the control room erupted into action. Tom was crying while trying to coordinate with the remaining colonies. Other staff members were either frozen in shock or frantically working to save whoever they could. The attack lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it was over, 60% of Mars' surface colonies lay in ruins. Nearly 40,000 people were dead. The survivors huddled in emergency bunkers, protected only by the planet's ancient bedrock. Hours later, as rescue efforts began, Walker stood in the emergency command center beneath Colony Base 1. His uniform was covered in red dust from helping pull survivors from the rubble. His hand shook as he looked at the casualty lists, finding what he already knew in his heart. Mary and Lisa Walker were among the confirmed dead. "Captain," Tom's voice cracked as he approached. "We're receiving reports from Earth and the Jupiter colonies. The same thing happened at Europa Base and Ganymede Station. They tried to hit Earth too, but our defense grid was stronger. We managed to shoot down most of their weapons." Walker nodded slowly, his grief hardening into something else. "Something dangerous. Get me the president of Earth Federation." The large screen at the front of the command center flickered to life. President Helen Ross looked as shell-shocked as everyone else, but her voice was steady. "Captain Walker, we're getting reports from all over the system. The Stellar Council, whoever they are, they hit us hard." "Madam President," Walker's voice was like steel, "I have evidence that they infiltrated our systems days before the attack. They studied us, learned our weaknesses, and struck when we were most vulnerable. This wasn't just an attack. This was premeditated murder." The president's face hardened. "The Council's ships are still in our system, watching. They sent terms. They want us to withdraw all colonies back to Earth, give up space travel, and submit to their authority. They say it's for the greater good of the galaxy." Walker looked around the room at the faces of his fellow humans. Dirty, bloody, grieving, but unbroken. With all due respect, Madam President, I suggest we give them our answer in terms they won't forget. President Ross nodded slowly. I'm promoting you to Admiral, effective immediately. Every surviving ship, every colony, every resource we have is now part of Earth Defense Force. They thought they could break us, Admiral Walker. Instead, they've united us like never before. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The surviving colonies coordinated their resources. Ships that had escaped the initial attack regrouped. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, studying the energy signatures of the Council's weapons, looking for weaknesses. Walker threw himself into the work, sleeping only when exhaustion forced him to. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the explosion that took his family. Every time he opened them, he worked harder to make sure their deaths would mean something. 1 week after the attack, Walker stood before the combined military leadership of Earth and the colonies. The room was packed with grim-faced officers, all of them having lost someone in what was now called the Great Betrayal. They thought they knew us. Walker's voice carried to every corner of the room. They studied our technology, our defenses, our daily routines, but they missed the most important thing about humanity. They missed what happens when you back us into a corner. He brought up a display showing the gathered forces of Earth, hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, all united under one banner for the first time in human history. The Council thinks we're dangerous. They have no idea. They want us to go quietly back to our little corner of space and behave. I say we show them exactly why they were right to fear us, and wrong to provoke us. The room erupted in cheers and shouts of agreement. Walker raised his hand for silence. But we won't do it their way. We won't strike at civilian targets. We won't murder children in their beds. We'll fight with honor, with courage, and with such skill that the galaxy will never forget what happened when they pushed humanity too far. As the officers filed out to prepare their forces, Walker stood at the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was watching, probably congratulating themselves on containing the human threat. They had no idea that their attack had awakened something that had slept in human DNA since the first cave person picked up a rock to defend their family. Sir, Tom appeared at his side. The first wave of ships is ready for inspection. Walker nodded, turning away from the window. The time for grief was over. Now was the time for action. As he walked toward the hangar where humanity's first united fleet waited, he made a silent promise to his family and all the others who had died in the attack. The galaxy had never seen humanity's true potential. It had never seen what humans could do when pushed past their breaking point. But they were about to find out. The Council's message had echoed across their worlds. Now humanity's answer would echo across the stars, and that echo would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. 3 months after the attack on Mars, Admiral Walker stood in the testing chamber of Earth's most secret research facility, watching as Dr. Reed adjusted the controls of her strange machine. The device hummed with a deep sound that made his teeth ache, but his attention was fixed on the young test pilot in the center of the room. The pilot's face was red with effort, his hands clenched into fists. Around him, the air itself seemed to bend and twist. Instruments along the walls beeped faster and faster until, with a sudden flash, every screen in the room cracked at once. The pilot collapsed, breathing hard but grinning. "Did you see that?" Dr. Reed's eyes were bright with excitement. The readings were off the charts. His emotional state directly affected the quantum field. Walker walked over to help the pilot up. "Good work, son. How did it feel?" "Like pure power, sir," the pilot said, still catching his breath. "I just thought about what they did to Mars, about my brother who died there. And it was like all that anger had somewhere to go." Dr. Reed was already reviewing the data. "It's incredible. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the effect. Anger, determination, the need to protect. They all create different patterns in the quantum field. Humans aren't just able to affect it. We're naturally wired to do it. We just never knew before." Walker looked at the cracked screens, thinking about the possibilities. Can we use this? Build it into our ships. We already are, Reed said, pulling up designs on her tablet. We're calling it the Rage Drive. It takes the pilot's emotional energy and converts it into pure power. The first prototype ship is almost ready. The next day, Walker stood in a massive hangar, looking up at humanity's newest weapon. The ship was sleek and dark, unlike anything in Earth's fleet. At its heart was a chamber similar to the one from the test room, but larger and connected to the ship's core systems. Beautiful, isn't she? General Thompson walked up beside him. The old soldier had been skeptical of the project at first, but the test results had convinced him. We're building more as fast as we can. The Council won't expect anything like this. How many ships can we have ready in 2 weeks? Walker asked, already planning. 20, maybe 30 if we push the factories to their limits. But that's not all. Thompson led him to another part of the hangar where rows of smaller craft waited. These are fighter-sized Rage Drives, smaller, but just as powerful. One pilot's emotional energy can power 3 of them at once through a neural link. Walker nodded, remembering the reports from the Mars attack. The Council used automated weapons against us. They're afraid to face us directly. Let's show them why. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Every pilot went through emotional training, learning to channel their feelings into pure energy. Ships were built and rebuilt, each one better than the last. The Council's ships still watched from the edges of the solar system, probably wondering why Earth had gone so quiet. They didn't have to wonder for long. The attack on Jupiter's defense station came just before dawn, Earth time. Council ships appeared from nowhere, weapons charging. But this time, Earth was ready. Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Remembrance, as 30 Rage-Drive ships moved to intercept. Around him, his crew was focused and calm, each one thinking about what they had lost, what they were fighting for. All ships, engage Rage Drives, he ordered. The effect was immediate. The quantum field around each ship began to twist and pulse with power. The Council ships fired their first shots, but the human vessels moved with impossible speed, dodging everything thrown at them. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the enemy is trying to hack our systems like they did on Mars." Walker smiled grimly. "Let them try. They won't find any computers to hack in these ships. Show them what humanity can do." The battle that followed would be talked about for years to come. Earth ships, powered by human emotion and piloted by hands guided by righteous anger, tore through the Council's formation like it was made of paper. Fighters linked to single pilots moved in perfect coordination, their attacks strengthened by shared determination. The Council ships tried to retreat, but the Rage Drives gave Earth's fleet speed they couldn't match. In less than an hour, it was over. The defense of Jupiter had become humanity's first major victory. Back on his ship, Walker received reports from across the system. The Council's watching ships were pulling back, retreating to their own space for the first time since the attack on Mars. Earth had bloodied their nose, and they didn't like it. "Sir," Tom appeared at his side, now wearing the uniform of a full lieutenant. "Message from Earth Command. The Council is asking for a ceasefire. They want to talk." Walker thought about his family, about all the families torn apart by the Council's containment action. Put them on screen. Let's hear what they have to say. The alien that appeared on the main screen looked nothing like a human. Its blue-skinned face was long and angular, its eyes too large and too dark. But Walker could read its expression well enough. It was afraid. "We underestimated your species," the alien said carefully. "Perhaps we can discuss terms." "The time for terms was before you murdered our people," Walker replied coldly. "Now you get to learn why that was a mistake." End transmission. He turned to his crew, seeing the same fire in their eyes that he felt in his heart. "Send word to all ships. The counterattack begins tomorrow." The Council thought they could break us, contain us, force us back to Earth. Instead, they gave us a reason to unite, to push ourselves further than we ever had before. They gave us a reason to show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of. As the message went out, Walker looked at the stars through his bridge window. Somewhere out there, the Council was probably gathering its forces, preparing for humanity's response. They would bring more ships, better weapons, all their advanced technology. But they still didn't understand. They saw humanity's anger as a weakness, something that made them dangerous and unstable. They didn't realize that human emotion, properly channeled, was the most powerful force in the universe. Tomorrow, the real war would begin. Humanity would take the fight to Council space, armed with ships powered by their determination and crewed by people who had learned the hard way that they were stronger than anyone had ever given them credit for. The Council had wanted to contain humanity's wrath. Instead, they had given it focus, purpose, and a way to echo across the stars themselves. As Walker prepared his fleet for the battles ahead, he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. Operation Thunderclap began in darkness. 3 human fleets, each powered by rage drive technology, jumped into Council space simultaneously. Their targets were 3 major Council worlds, each one home to a different alien species that had supported the attack on Mars. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of the Remembrance, leading the assault on the primary target. The alien world below was beautiful, with purple oceans and golden continents. Its orbital defenses were impressive, but nothing compared to what humanity had built in the months since the Mars attack. "All ships report ready, sir," Lieutenant Tom said from his station. "Rage drive outputs are at maximum. The crew's determination is off the charts." Walker nodded, his face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. "Begin the attack. Remember, military targets only. We're not them. We don't kill civilians." The human fleet moved like a swarm of angry wasps, their ships' quantum fields blazing with power. Council defenders scrambled to meet them, but they were too slow, too predictable. The rage drives let human pilots react at impossible speeds, their movements guided by instinct and emotion rather than computer calculations. "Their automated defenses are trying to hack our systems," one of the bridge crew called out. "Same trick as Mars." "Let them waste their time," Walker replied. "You can't hack human emotion." The battle was fierce but one-sided. Council ships, relying on their advanced technology, couldn't match the raw power of human determination. One by one, their orbital platforms fell. Their military bases were disabled. Their fleets were scattered. Similar reports came in from the other 2 targets. Humanity's surprise attack had worked perfectly. The Council was reeling, unable to comprehend how their supposedly primitive enemies had advanced so quickly. But as Walker watched the Council forces retreat, he felt no joy in the victory. The wound in his heart where his family had been was still raw. "Send the message," he ordered. "Let's see if they're ready to talk now." The Council's response was immediate. Their leaders appeared on the main screen, their alien faces showing various signs of distress. The head of the Council, a tall being with crystalline features, spoke first. "This is impossible," it said. "Your technology, your ships, they defy all known laws of physics." "No," Walker corrected them. "They defy your understanding of physics. There's a difference. Now, shall we discuss terms?" "What do you want?" another Council member asked. "Resources, territory, technology." Walker leaned forward in his command chair. "We want justice. We want guarantees that no other species will suffer what we suffered. And we want the truth. Why did you really attack us?" The Council members looked at each other nervously. Before they could answer, Walker's tactical officer interrupted. "Sir, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're Council ships, but they're broadcasting surrender signals." On the screen, the Council leaders looked even more alarmed. One of them, a being with features that reminded Walker of an Earth octopus, spoke up. "They are deserters. Several Council races wish to change sides." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Explain." A new face appeared on the screen. An alien captain whose ship had just surrendered. "We watched what you did at Jupiter, how you fight, how you protect." Some of us remember the old stories about a race of warriors who could bend reality with their will. We believe you are their descendants." The bridge went quiet. Walker thought about the incredible advances they'd made, how naturally humans had taken to the rage drive technology. "Tell me more." But before the alien captain could continue, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple hostile contacts. Tom shouted, "Biggest fleet we've ever seen. They're charging weapons." The hardline faction of the Council had arrived with everything they had. Thousands of ships filled the space around the planet, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Walker didn't hesitate. "All ships, form up. Defensive positions. Protect our surrendered allies." He turned to his crew. "They think numbers will save them. Let's show them what humanity does when backed into a corner." Again. The battle that followed would become legendary. Human ships, their rage drives blazing with the combined emotional energy of their crews, met the Council fleet head-on. The surrendered alien ships, now fighting alongside humans, provided vital intelligence about Council tactics. Walker coordinated the defense from his bridge, watching as his people performed miracles. 3 human pilots, linked through their neural networks, controlled entire squadrons of fighters that danced through enemy fire like leaves in the wind. Rage-drive ships absorbed impossible amounts of damage, their crew's determination literally holding them together. Hours passed. The space around the planet became a graveyard of broken ships, but slowly, steadily, humanity pushed back. The Council fleet, for all its numbers, couldn't match the raw power of human emotion combined with technology. Finally, the Council fleet began to retreat. Their neat formations had been shattered, their confidence broken. They had thrown everything they had at humanity, and it hadn't been enough. In the aftermath, Walker received an urgent message from Earth. Intelligence Officer Kate Stone, one of their best analysts, had been working with the surrendered aliens. What she discovered changed everything. "The Council didn't attack us because they thought we were dangerous," she reported. "They attacked us because they recognize what we are. There are ancient records, Admiral. Stories of a race that could bend reality through sheer force of will. They vanished months ago, but the evidence suggests they might have settled on a primitive world, a world called Earth." Walker looked out at the stars, thinking about how naturally humans had taken to the rage drive technology, how their emotions could affect the very fabric of space. "So when they saw us reaching for the stars, they panicked," Stone confirmed. "They thought if we discovered our true heritage, nothing could stop us. So they tried to stop us first, and in doing so, they made their worst fears come true," Walker finished. As reports continued to come in from across Council space, Walker faced a decision. They had proven their power. They had shown the galaxy what happened when humanity was provoked. But now they had to decide. Would they use this victory to punish or to build something new? The answer would shape the future of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. And as Walker looked at the mix of human and alien ships now gathered around his fleet, he began to see possibilities he had never imagined before. The Council's foolish attack had awakened something in humanity. But perhaps what they had awakened wasn't just humanity's wrath. Perhaps it was humanity's true destiny. Intelligence Officer Kate Stone walked through the ancient alien library, her hand touching the crystalline walls that held millions of years of galactic history. The surrendered Council world had given humans full access to their archives, hoping to prove their new loyalty. What she found there made her hands shake with excitement and fear. "Admiral Walker needs to see this immediately," she told her team, carefully copying the glowing symbols that told humanity's true story. Hours later, she stood before Walker and Earth's military command, her discoveries displayed on the huge screen behind her. The room was silent as she spoke. "They called themselves the Shapers," she explained, pointing to images of beings that looked almost human. "They could manipulate reality through pure force of will. Their emotions could literally change the universe around them. Sound familiar? Walker nodded, thinking of the rage drive technology that had given humanity its edge. Our ancestors. Yes, but there's more. Stone brought up new images showing ancient battles. The Shapers weren't just powerful, they were guardians. They protected younger races from threats we can barely imagine. But something happened. A war that was so terrible, the survivors chose to hide themselves away. On Earth, General Thompson said quietly, "They used their powers one last time." Stone continued, "They changed themselves, became what we now know as humans. They locked away most of their abilities, letting them sleep in our DNA until we were ready. The Council found records of this plan and realized what we truly were. That's why they attacked Mars. They thought if they couldn't stop us now, we'd become too powerful to control." Walker stood up, walking to the window that looked out over the rebuilt Mars colony. "So every time we use the rage drives, every time our emotions affect quantum fields, we're not using technology," Stone finished. "We're remembering. The rage drives aren't giving us power. They're just helping us access what was already there." The room erupted in discussion, but Walker held up his hand for silence. "The question is, what do we do with this knowledge?" Before anyone could answer, alarms blared throughout the building. Tom burst into the room, his face pale. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings from deep space. Something's coming. Something bigger than anything we've ever seen." Walker rushed to the command center, Stone right behind him. The main screen showed a massive tear in space itself, nearly as big as Earth's moon. Through it came ships, hundreds of them, but unlike anything they had seen before. They'd made the Council's ships look like toys. "Message coming in," Tom reported. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages." A voice filled the room, ancient and powerful. "Children of the Shapers, you have awakened. We have returned." Stone's face went white as she checked her data. "Admiral, these match the descriptions of the enemies the Shapers fought. The ones so terrible that our ancestors chose to hide rather than continue fighting." The voice continued, "Your guardians fled from us, hid themselves away, made themselves forget. But we never forgot. We never stopped hunting. And now you have revealed yourselves." Walker looked at the tactical display, showing the enemy fleet's power readings. They were off the charts. Even with the rage drives, even with humanity's awakening powers, these ships were far beyond anything they could handle. "Send word to all colonies," he ordered. "Full evacuation protocols. Get everyone to the emergency shelters." He turned to Stone. "What else do those records say about these enemies? How did the Shapers fight them?" Stone was already searching through the data. "The records say the Shapers' greatest strength wasn't their power. It was their ability to unite others, to inspire, to lead." Walker thought about the Council ships that had surrendered, about the aliens who had chosen to stand with humanity. He opened a channel to all Earth forces, and then, after a moment's thought, to all Council worlds as well. "This is Admiral Walker of Earth. An ancient enemy has returned, one that threatens not just humanity, but all life in our galaxy. They drove our ancestors into hiding. They think they can do the same to us." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They're wrong." Reports started coming in. Council ships were moving to join Earth's fleet. Species that had been enemies months ago were now offering their technology, their resources, their aid. The ancient enemy's arrival had done something the galaxy hadn't seen since the time of the Shapers. It had united everyone against a common threat. "All ships, form up," Walker ordered. "Council allies, take flanking positions. Everyone else, defensive formations around the populated worlds." He turned to Stone. "How close are we to understanding the full extent of our abilities?" "We've barely scratched the surface," she admitted. "But from what I've found in the records, strong emotions aren't just powering our ships. They're powering us. The stronger we feel, The more we remember, the more we can do. Walker nodded, a plan forming in his mind. Send word to all ships, human and alien alike. I want everyone linked into the Rage Drive network. If emotion is power, let's show them what an entire galaxy's worth of determination feels like. The enemy fleet moved closer, their weapons charging. They had expected to find scattered, primitive descendants of their old foes. Instead, they found a united galaxy, led by humans who were remembering more of their heritage with each passing moment. On the bridge of the remembrance, Walker felt something change. The Rage Drive hummed differently, responding to not just human emotions now, but to the combined will of dozens of species. Through the neural link, he could feel them all: human determination, council wisdom, and the unique strengths of 100 alien races. "Sir," Tom said in awe, "power readings are. I've never seen anything like this." Walker looked at the enemy fleet, remembering everything that had led to this moment. The attack on Mars had awakened humanity's power. The war with the Council had taught them how to use it. And now, facing an enemy that had haunted the galaxy's dreams for millions of years, they would show everyone why the Shapers had been legends. "All ships," he commanded, feeling the combined strength of the galaxy flowing through the quantum fields around them. "Prepare to engage." The space around them began to twist and bend as the power of a united galaxy faced off against the ancient enemy. The true test of humanity's awakening was about to begin. The battle began with a flash that lit up half the galaxy. The ancient enemy struck first, their weapons tearing holes in reality itself. But the united fleet, humans and aliens together, held their ground. The Rage Drive network hummed with the combined determination of a dozen species, each contributing their own unique strength to the whole. Admiral Walker felt it all through his neural link. Human courage mixed with council wisdom, the fierce pride of warrior races blending with the calculating precision of organic computers. Every ship in the fleet was connected, moving as one vast organism, driven by a single purpose: survival. "Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen," Tom reported from his station. "They're not just destroying ships, they're erasing them from existence." Walker watched as another squadron vanished, wiped from reality by the enemy's impossible weapons. But he also saw something else. Every loss made the survivors fight harder. Every death added to the power flowing through the Rage Drive network. "Stone," he called to the intelligence officer at her station, "what do the Shaper records say about these weapons?" She worked quickly at her console, reading the ancient texts. "The enemy doesn't just fight with technology. They attack the rules of reality itself. But that's why the Shapers were able to fight them. Emotion, willpower, it exists outside normal physics. It's the one thing they can't simply erase." Walker nodded, a plan forming in his mind. "All ships, pull back to defensive positions. Form a sphere around Earth and the Council worlds. Pour everything you have into the Rage Drives." The fleet moved as one, creating a barrier of ships powered by pure emotion. The enemy advanced, their massive ships distorting space around them. Their weapons fired again and again, but now something was different. Where the fleet's determination was strongest, their irrational weapons couldn't quite take hold. "It's working," Stone shouted. "The combined emotional energy is creating a new kind of space, one their weapons can't affect." Through the neural link, Walker sent his memories of Mars, of his family, of everything humanity had endured. Other species added their own stories. Council races remembering ancient wrongs they wanted to right. Warrior species sharing tales of honor and sacrifice. Peaceful races contributing their dreams of a better future. The enemy's next attack hit the fleet's barrier and shattered like water on rocks. For the first time, their emotionless voices showed a hint of concern. "Impossible. You are nothing. Fragments. Forgotten children playing with powers you don't understand." Walker stood on his bridge, feeling the strength of an entire galaxy flowing through him. "You're wrong. We understand perfectly. The Shapers didn't run from you because they were weak. They did it to protect something more important than power, the right of every species to grow, to learn, to become more than what they were born to be. The enemy ships pressed their attack, but now the United Fleet was pushing back. Humanity's rage drives, powered by the combined will of the galaxy, began to tear holes in the enemy's seemingly invincible armor. Their ships are made of the same material as their weapons, Stone realized, reading more from the ancient texts. They're not just fighting us. They're trying to make this reality forget we ever existed. But emotions, memories, will, these things exist in a deeper layer of reality. That's what the Shapers discovered. Walker touched the neural link, connecting directly with every ship in the fleet. You hear that? They want reality to forget us. Let's give reality something it can never forget. The power that flowed through the fleet then was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every species contributed the essence of what made them unique: human determination, council knowledge, the warrior race's courage, the peaceful race's hope. The rage drives didn't just channel it, they amplified it, turning emotion itself into a weapon that could reshape space and time. The enemy's mighty ships began to crack, their reality-erasing weapons useless against the pure force of collective will. Their emotionless voices showed fear for the first time in millions of years. You cannot. This is not. Reality itself will. Reality, Walker replied, is what we make it, and we choose to make it together. The final push came from everywhere at once. Every ship, every being, every scrap of determination and hope and anger and love, all focused into a single point. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then everything exploded. When reality settled back into place, the enemy fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not erased, but banished to a place where their powers meant nothing. The combined will of the galaxy had rewritten the rules they relied on, turning their own weapons against them. In the silence that followed, Walker looked out at the fleet that had saved everything. Human ships floated beside council vessels. Warrior race cruisers protected the ships of peaceful species. The neural link hummed with tired satisfaction and shared victory. "Sir," Tom said quietly, messages coming in from every world. They're celebrating." Stone looked up from her readings, tears in her eyes. The Shapers didn't just hide their powers in us. They hid a piece of themselves in every species, knowing that one day we'd all need to stand together. They didn't run from the fight. They were playing the longest game in history. Over the next few days, as the galaxy began to rebuild, Walker met with leaders from every species. The council was reformed, with humanity taking its place not as conquerors, but as guardians, just as their ancestors had been. The rage drive technology was shared, modified to work with the unique emotional strengths of each species. Together, they began building a new kind of civilization, one that drew power from unity rather than division. 1 month after the battle, Walker stood on Mars again, looking at the rebuilt colony where he had lost his family. A memorial had been built there, not just for human losses, but for every species that had suffered in the journey to this moment. They would be proud, Stone said, standing beside him. Your family, the Shapers, everyone who helped us reach this point. We didn't just survive. We became something greater. Walker nodded, watching ships from a dozen worlds pass overhead, their rage drives leaving trails of light in the Martian sky. Humanity's wrath had echoed across the stars, yes, but it had echoed into something more, a song of unity, of growth, of the kind of strength that only comes when different peoples stand together. Send word to the fleet, he said finally. There are still stars we haven't reached, species we haven't met. Let's make sure they know they're not alone out there. The ships rose into the night, carrying with them the legacy of the Shapers and the promise of a united galaxy. And in the quantum fields that bound everything together, the echo of humanity's greatest battle slowly transformed into something else, a lullaby of peace, sung in the emotions of 1,000 different species, all moving forward together into whatever the future might bring.